Good evening, everyone. Welcome to HR Leaders Worldwide Spotlight. I am your host for tonight, Giselle Barrion, the Managing Director and Chief Human Resources and Organization Development Consultant of Great Learnings and Beyond Management Consultancy. So my partner is not here tonight, but he will be joining us on our next episode. If you want to find out more about GLB Management Consultancy, which is actually the sponsor of this show, you can actually visit our website. It's www.greatlearningsandbeyond.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook. That's GLB Management Consultancy. I have my own or personal LinkedIn account. You can follow me, Giselle Barrion, or on Facebook, the same name, and as well as on Instagram. I am available on all social media sites. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to have a discussion or an interview later on with one of the experts when it comes to our topic, which is about personal branding for employees and business owners. So it's for professionals and business owners, for those who are looking for a job, and for those people who are startups or they can be big organizations who want to position their brand better as well as their personal brand better. All right, so let's all watch this.
Mm.
All right, then we're back. For today, we're going to talk about personal branding, and to talk about this in detail, we've invited someone who is an expert, or should I say a guru in the Philippines when it comes to personal branding. Okay, she is the Philippine editor and contributor in Marketing in Asia, a podcast host of the program entitled Your Brand, Your Story. And also, she is a CEO branding strategist of, when I say her name, you will already know her, Jen Cajucom.asia. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful and talented Miss Jennette Cajucom in the house. Hi, Jennette.
Hi, Dr. Giselle. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
How
So
are you?
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I've been looking forward to to have this session with you. Yep.
Actually excited for our interview today. I've met Janet, of course, online, but not like this one. This is the first time we've actually met on Zoom. So tell us, Janet, when it comes to personal branding, because I know this is your forte, I would have to say that probably you are the guru here in the Philippines when it comes to personal branding, or one of the gurus in personal branding. Tell us, what is personal branding for everybody's expectations leveling or understanding?
Yeah. Actually, personal branding has been conceptualized back in the late 90s. And I also learned this from my mentor. She's also one of the leading personal branding strategists here in the country, Virginia Bautista.
Oh,
And
yes, I know her.
yes, yes. And back then, going back to that article on personal branding, it was actually written by Tom Peters for fastcompany.com. And the name of the title of the article is The Brand Called You. So I
Mhm.
guess in a nutshell, what he said in that article is that because more often than not, we associate ourselves with the brand of the company that we work for.
Mhm.
So it's I guess the simplest analogy that I can give here is like whenever we introduce ourselves to strangers, we say, we work with this company, we work with XYZ, we work with ABC,
Right.
something like that. So little do we know that we actually have our own brand. It's
Yes.
just that we haven't made a conscious effort
Mhm.
to craft our own personal brand, but by default we do already have one, and that's because since we interact with people, especially in our workplace, there have been perceptions and impressions formed of us that it became our personal brand, and we're not just aware of it. And the simplest example, I guess, that I could give that would be familiar with your viewers, with your listeners, is um, I'm pretty sure that you can relate to this when I say that when we look for a certain person with a certain skill set, like for example, if somebody is good at creating reports in an instant, or somebody is good in spreadsheets, for example, that guy or that girl becomes your go-to person. So
Mhm.
it's like subconsciously, that person, because that has been the impression created on that person, that subconsciously becomes a personal brand, the
Mhm.
person's personal brand. Or a different skill, let's say if somebody is good at doing presentations, right?
Right.
So what happens is, let's say there is a business trip, and somebody needs to be sent on that business trip, or somebody needs to pitch for a potential investor, for example. So you tap on the person with the strongest skill set, right? And in essence, it's like that becomes the person's personal brand, if you think about
Mm.
it. But then yun na nga, hindi lang we people are not just making a conscious effort to craft their personal brand, that the default impression and perception becomes their personal brand.
Right. I love what you said. The default impression becomes a person's personal brand. But picking up from the examples you gave, do you think that personal brand has a lot to do with a person's strength that you need to highlight if that is what you want to be known about? Is that it?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. I would, now that I've shared that, you can craft your personal brand as long as you make a conscious effort, especially now that we're living in a digital economy. You can actually highlight your strengths, but then I guess let's just be conscious of the strengths that we want to highlight, because it's not like, we're good, really, really good about a particular skill set. But then, especially on LinkedIn, we met on LinkedIn, right? If you put that on LinkedIn and then nobody's interested in it, so what's the purpose of putting that strength there? So I guess what I'm trying to say here is you have to keep in mind who would benefit from that strength.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a very, very powerful B2B platform, and a powerful platform to attract employers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see that, employers who are interested in your skill set are on that platform, then all the more that you should put your strength that strength in your personal brand. So that's it.
Right. So
Mhm.
you said that LinkedIn is a good platform. If I may ask, how can a person um, be able to position herself or himself better on LinkedIn? Like there are people that they put a lot of good intros with a lot of adjectives. What is the best way? Do you stick with your main job? If it's, for example, if you are a consultant or a trainer, or let's say, for example, you are an HR head, an HR executive, you just stick with that? Or is it advisable? Because I've been seeing it from some people. They are using some adjective like a seasoned HR executive, or a social scientist, something like that. So, what is your suggestion?
It's a good thing that you mentioned about adjectives, because there are even others who would even use the word best, because I guess
Right.
at the
Or
back.
even guru. They use guru, experts. I've been seeing those.
Yes, yes. I
Mhm.
guess no, it we have to understand that using certain adjectives, it's like they're coming from a thinking that they have to stand out from their competition, which
Mhm.
is why they have to use superlative words, or words that would,
I don't want
you
to say
know,
it here.
yes.
You mentioned that
Yes. But
some
yeah,
sort of exaggeration. Do you think so?
yes.
Mhm.
Yes, and I do understand where they're coming from because, like I said, they always have this competition that they have to think about, which I guess can be a good strategy. But one thing that we should realize, especially nowadays that we live in a digital economy, especially now that, because of this pandemic, almost everyone is operating digitally. There really is it's no longer always about the skill set that a particular um, employer gets drawn to. I guess that's what we have to keep in mind because we always associate, we always tend to think that our personal brand is just about our skill set when
Mhm.
it's not just that. I mean, if I were to ask you, who are you? You are not just about your skills. You are not just about your work. You are also about your core values. And you
Right.
are also about your personality. And that too has to be incorporated when you craft your title in your personal brand. And
Mhm.
which is why, I've seen branding strategists who would use the word quirky.
Yes.
Yes.
I've been
They,
noticing that too.
Yes, they would intentionally or strategically use the word quirky because they want to attract clients who loves quirky. And
Mm,
there really is a market for that. So I
I see.
guess, yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to say here, um let's not let's not be threatened with the competition concept that we have to always use superlative words because if
Agree.
we are if we are to think of the market as a pie, the pie is so big that
Right.
everyone, as in every single one of us, can have a slice of that pie. It's just really a matter of nailing down which slice or what we call market that you really want to basically what you want your niche to be. It's
Mm-hmm.
just basically identifying what your niche is. And that being said, I guess when you, instead of using just words like expert or guru, you have to identify who your target audience is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, who do you really want to help? Who do you
Right.
really want to help? So things like, let's say if you are a marketer, is your expertise, or do you love helping small business owners? If you identify with small business owners, particularly, what industry are we talking about? The beauty industry, I don't know, e-commerce perhaps. So you really have to nail down, because these keywords, when you put online and when you associate with your name, when
Mm-hmm.
it resonates with the people looking for that, that identify with those keywords. I guess a simple example would be, if I'm let's say starting an e-commerce business and I need a marketer who can help me market my e-commerce business,
Mm-hmm.
I would use that keyword because yun ako eh. As a business owner, e-commerce ako, dapat yung mahanap ko e-commerce din. So so
Mm-hmm.
those keywords, so that those keywords in your title would automatically resonate with your target audience. So yeah, and the same applies even with professionals. You have to identify. I mean, do you want to attract employers from the BPO industry? Do you want to attract employers from the medical industry?
Mm-hmm.
You have to incorporate that, because at the end of the day, your goal um, is not to defeat your competitors. Your goal is to attract employers.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
like what you said, that you need to focus on your mission, your objective. Why are you doing it? You focus on your client instead of competition. That's so perfect. I'm just curious. What type of industry as well as clients do you cater to with your services?
Ah, yeah. Since I resonate really more of those who believe in crafting authentic, uh, authentic and meaningful personal brand. I resonate more with businesses, and there are not a lot, I must say. It's so I mean, they're not a lot here in the Philippines yet, but I'm very, very hopeful. But I resonate more to those businesses who believe that businesses are not just for profit, but in fact, also solving a problem, but and also associated with an advocacy.
Yeah,
So
I love
yeah,
those.
because I believe, I mean, and business owners know about this, that it's already a given that when you put up a business, it's already a given that you want to earn profit from it. But I mean, if we are to dig deeper, I mean, what is that bigger problem that you want to solve, that you want your business to solve? Yes, the value, exactly. So that's where I help them out, because more often, because I believe in this saying, and a lot of business owners have already embraced this, that because there's this philosophy that people would rather deal with people than businesses.
Mhm.
And that being said, I mean, I encourage more business owners to not just put their business brand out there, but also their own brand as a business owner, because whatever trust is whatever trust that they earn from their target clientele will be extended to their business, and that eventually leads to conversion.
Right. You mentioned earlier, Janet, that there are clients, but not so much yet here in the Philippines. Why? Is the market not yet ready to accept that they need to, to address that part of personal branding as compared to other foreign countries?
I guess it's because there is still in the Philippines, there is still a large number of, I mean, large corporations, traditional businesses, as opposed to startups. Because with startups, I noticed, since they are mostly run by millennials, and millennials, if I may just borrow the words that I learned from an expert who I also interviewed in my podcast. She actually labeled millennials as the purpose-driven generation.
Mm.
So since most of them populate the startup ecosystem, most of them do it. I mean, they start a business to because it's associated with an advocacy, or they want to solve a bigger problem. And since the startup ecosystem is I mean, it's just new to us, although it has already been here for a few years. So that being said, konti pa, kailangan pang dumami. But I'm hopeful that more and more people put up businesses because they want to solve a bigger problem, and that they believe that money will just follow. Money will just be the consequence, that it should not be the focus. So I resonate more to that
Thank you
personally.
for those words of wisdom coming from you and the insights with regard to how you should position your brand. Now let's go to employment. People who are doing this hashtag open to work. You think that's good? It's a good strategy, or it will just diminish their value if they do that? Because I've been seeing on LinkedIn that there are some who are using that template, hashtag open to work, hashtag open for business. What is your take on it?
Ah, it's, I guess, with the one thing I noticed with LinkedIn compared to other compared to other platforms, the people on LinkedIn seem to be more I don't know, they resonate more with human centered content, with more authentic content. It's like they resonate more to people whose content uh are along the lines of
Yes,
vulnerability.
I agree. I agree.
Diba? Vulnerable. That's one thing I've observed. So that being said, when you use hashtag open to work, I think that's okay. That's
Mhm.
okay, because I guess, I mean, you can also validate this with me, because with HR, it also helps the HR practitioners
Mhm.
easily to search. to search for those who are in immediate need of employment. I mean, that's in terms of, that's on the technical side of LinkedIn. At least when they immediately see that this person has tagged himself as hashtag open to work, the next thing that an HR practitioner would do now is, okay, this guy is open to work. So now let's see if his skill set would fit our needs. So
Yeah.
it makes the job of an HR practitioner easier. So yeah.
To actually bump on one of those one time. And there's this guy. Actually, he's a former executive, and then he lost his job. And then it so happened that he used that hashtag. And then someone, a requisitioning manager, commented on the thread, and the person said, "You can actually apply and send your resume on this email address." Oh, I think it works, right?
Yes.
So, how do you think personal branding can help those people who are seeking for a job?
Ah, well,
Like I know for a fact that it's one of the things that they or one of the manifestations of personal branding is on CV. How can you or what would be your tips for them?
yeah. More often than not, when we're looking for a job, that's the first thing that we do. We update our CV, right? Sorry
Right.
about that. That's my dog. Sorry about that. So yeah. So going back with, I guess, one thing, since we put our CV online, so basically we operate online. We want our employers, we want to find employers online, we want to attract employers online. So let's not limit ourselves to just creating our CV, to perfecting our CV or creating our profile. I guess the simplest premise that I can give here is, if you're looking for a job and let's say that employer stumbles upon your CV online, do not do not expect that they would immediately give you a call simply because your contact information. Because for one, they would, I'm pretty sure that there are other applicants with the similar skill set as yours that they have to consider. So if you were to come up with a strategy online, base it on the premise that one of the first things that they will do before they call you is that they will look you up through Google
Mm-hmm.
to find more information about you other than what's on your CV. Why? Because in the traditional setting, when you have submitted your resume, and then when you come in for interview, one of the first questions that they would ask, tell me something about yourself that is not on your resume,
Mm-hmm.
right? So most likely, that's exactly what they will do as well. After receiving your CV, they will Google you up first.
Mm-hmm.
So one way,
Google you have to be there. You have to be present.
yes, you have to be present, and you make sure that when you're found online, have to make sure that they will like what they see.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is it
So
that people must keep a LinkedIn account as well as Instagram and Facebook, or just LinkedIn is enough?
ah,
I
it
mean, if you're a
actually
professional.
Hmm. That's a really good question, and a lot of professionals would will benefit from this answer. Um, you have to think first who your ideal client really is, who your ideal employer is, and then once you've identified that, you have to find out where they're visible, what
Mhm.
platforms they use. So if they're on LinkedIn, yes, be on LinkedIn. If they're on Instagram, let's say, because a lot of startups run by the younger generation seem to be using Instagram more. So you might want to consider also creating an Instagram profile. So things like that, you have to consider that you have to the term that we actually use here is technographics. You have to know the technographics of the employer that you want to attract, meaning what platforms do they use, where are they usually visible. So
Mhm.
there. And then I guess from there, and you just guess what was the question again? Sorry.
About social media.
Yeah, social media.
distance up to where the clients are or where the target audience are located.
Yes. So once you've identified, what platforms they use, like I said earlier, um you have to craft your profile in such a way that it would send the message, yeah,
Exactly.
that you're a good fit for their company. So that being said, this is now where you have the power to make use of the features of the different platforms. You might want to consider editing your privacy settings in Facebook if that's your personal account where you share a lot of things. And then with LinkedIn, of course, there are two things to consider, especially if you really, really want to attract employers on LinkedIn. Two main things: your profile, it has to be optimized. And then second, you have to post content consistently. Because otherwise, because that's your content, the content that you put on LinkedIn gives them an idea of the kind of value that you can give to a company. So what things do you resonate with? I mean, and how can you showcase your expertise through content on LinkedIn? I mean, can you write an article on that? Let's say a listicle, how to for example, that would showcase your skills and about your core values. I mean, if we're talking about, if you believe in innovation, can you create post related to innovation?
Mhm.
So because that makes the job of a potential employer easier, because it gives them a better idea of you. I mean, I know that we cannot we cannot dismiss the idea that there are competitor applicants that we can
Yeah.
deal, and this is a good approach by doing a content strategy through LinkedIn if you want to attract employers on LinkedIn.
Well said. Is it content, or is it just value, or do you, which is more important? Value your current role, or uh, the adjectives when it comes to putting your intro profile? Because I understand one of the platforms that you really highly suggest is LinkedIn. Now, when it comes to positioning yourself, the very first thing that people would normally see in you, aside from your photo, is your intro profile. So, which is more important? Your current role, or your roles, the adjectives, or the content that you bring? If you have this limited rows where you can encode or put in all the introduction profile.
Right. I guess few things that you have to ask yourself is, if once you what type of, how well do you know the employer that you want to attract? Because traditional employers, meaning the large corporations, you have to know how they think din, how they base their decisions. And then craft your personal branding, or your, in this case, your LinkedIn title on that. And then if if you resonate more with startups, if you want to work with startups that are more purpose driven, then it should come out in your profile. So I guess you should put their core values, for example. I guess going back to what I said earlier, instead of using the words like best, try to use the language. Try to
Mhm.
use the language of the potential employer that you want to attract. But then, of course, not we don't have any intention of manipulating, of course, because as much as possible, we want to stay authentic. And
Right.
it's like we want to send the message to our potential employer: hey, I'm also like you. I believe in the same things.
Mhm.
And I mean, let's also not forget that trust is the most important currency in today's digital economy. That being said, a lot of employers nowadays, whether we're talking about large corporations or startups, new startups, a lot of businesses nowadays are already aware that it's easy to learn a skill.
Mhm.
They mostly base their decisions on who they can trust, on who can work for them for the long haul.
Mhm.
So I mean, how can you establish trust through your profile? So if you think about it, if you just highlight your skills alone, it might not be sufficient to establish trust for you to earn that call for an interview. So
Mm.
that being said, you might want to consider also incorporating the core values that you believe in. So there.
Well said, Janet. Janet, I know that you have given so many beautiful insights, but I'm also curious, what prompted you to try it out in personal branding? What is about personal branding that inspired you to really, this is the career that I want to focus on? It's on the personal note.
Yes. Well, aside from the fact that it has given me, benefits in terms of opportunities,
Mm.
that I want to also share to other people, I believe um, we are now going into that world where we have to be more connected.
Right.
And one way of connecting, since we're now operating digitally, one way of connecting to people, to the market, to the audience that we want to attract is through our personal brand. I
Mm.
guess we have to ask ourselves the question, how can your target audience or target employer or target market actually experience you without having yet to interact with you? And
Mm.
that's through your personal brand.
Right.
So yeah, so if you, and one way, and this is also what I teach, don't just craft a personal brand just for the sake of impressing your target audience. You have to be able to connect, because if your goal is to just stand out, what are your chances of being noticed? If your goal is to just stand out, you have to connect. And one way of connecting is by also crafting your own personal brand story. Mean, you have to answer questions. Why do you help? Why do you want to help this specific type of market? What was your experience before? What is your backstory that led you to focus on that skill? What led you? What was that turning point that made you decide, this is the bigger problem that I want to solve. This is what I want to be known for. This is what I want to help people with. This is what I think my purpose is. So you have to craft the story for that, so that when people read it, there is you somehow already are able to establish immediate connection, and which could eventually lead to trust.
Right. Any final message to our listeners and viewers, Janet, who are also interested to find out how they can improve themselves in terms of branding?
Ah, well, I guess when we say personal branding, this is more than just crafting a beautiful profile. This is more than just impressing our potential employer, because personal branding is a journey in itself. I guess you take the time to introspect, to know yourself on a deeper level, realize that you are not just about your skills, you're also about your core values, and you would actually be happier to work with someone who believe in the same things as you do, who also believe in the same core values. um Take the time to really invest on your personal brand, because yeah, aside from it would eventually lead to your happiness, hopefully contentment in your workplace, but it would also, yeah, pave the way to, I mean, along down the road, pave the way to help you build a good online reputation. And who knows, it could also be your legacy. So it's really something that we should all invest on.
Thank you so much. There you go. Thank you so much, Miss Jennette Cajucom of Marketing in Asia. How can they reach you, Janet, if they wanted to get in touch with you or they want to work with you or collaborate?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. You can, yeah, just look me up, Jennette Cajucom, JenneTteCajucom. And yeah, they can also send me an email at jen@marketinginasia.com. And I also have, yeah, a personal, yeah, website at jencajucom.asia, like what Dr. Giselle said earlier.
Okay, thank you, our personal brand expert, Miss Jennette Cajucom. Have a nice day, everyone. Have
Thank
a
you.
nice day,
Thank you so
Janet.
much. Thank you. You too. Keep safe, everyone.
Thank you once again to Miss Jennette Cajucom for providing those wonderful tips or insights about personal branding. There are actually so many key takeaways, guys, but I'm going to leave you a few. One is, it really resonated with me that you need to always be authentic when it comes to your branding. Personally, I believe on it. You don't have to exaggerate your accomplishments. You just have to focus on your core values as well as on your authentic brand. What you are, who you really are, and what value can you bring to others, whether you are looking for a job or you are a business owner. So with that, I hope to see you again in our next HR Leaders Worldwide Spotlight. That's every first Saturday of the month. We bring in fresh content every 7:30 in the evening. And also join us on the third week of the month, every third Saturday of the month, 7:30 p.m. as well for HR Leaders Worldwide Insights with me and Ryan Barrion, wherein we're going to share with you some of the HR breakthroughs in the new normal. So thank you, and we hope to see you again.